Everyone lies when they say they're fine. No one wakes up early, drinks tasteless coffee, sits in traffic for hours, and calls it love for life. Most people don't live, they endure. They move from one obligation to the next, mistaking motion for meaning. And somehow, this becomes normal. Have you noticed how everyone stays busy? Not productive, busy. Always something playing, something scrolling, something demanding attention. Notifications, news, arguments, entertainment they don't even enjoy, relationships they quietly resent. Silence has become dangerous because silence leads to thinking, and thinking leads to the question we learned very early, never to ask for too long. Why does any of this exist? If it all ends? Most people touch that question once as children. Then they're gently trained to let it go. Not because it was answered, but because no one wanted to hear it. You felt that shift, even if you don't remember it clearly. The moment curiosity became uncomfortable. The moment the room changed when you asked too much. One man refused to stop asking. His name was Peter Wessel Zapffe. He didn't believe consciousness was humanity's triumph. He believed it was our fatal error. A biological mistake. According to Zapffe, humans evolved awareness far beyond what survival required. We became the only beings who know we will die, and are forced to live as if that knowledge doesn't slowly corrode us from the inside. You feel it when the noise fades, Sunday nights, when the screen goes dark, when the music stops, when nothing is asking for your attention anymore. That hollow pressure in the chest. Not sadness, not fear. Something quieter, heavier. The truth is unbearable. So we did what humans always do when truth threatens survival. We invented defenses. Zapffe identified 4 psychological mechanisms, not to help us find meaning, but to stop us from collapsing under awareness. You use them every day. Everyone does. And once you see them clearly, you can't unsee them. There is no return to innocence after this. The first mechanism is denial. Denial isn't pretending death doesn't exist. It's cutting pieces out of your awareness so life stays tolerable. When self-awareness awakens fully, it feels like standing over an endless abyss. Denial is the rope ladder we imagine is holding us up. You see it everywhere, in polite conversation, in motivational slogans, in how suffering is rebranded as just how life is. How often does someone ask if you're okay and accept I'm fine without listening? How often have you been that answer? We deny death. We deny emptiness. We deny absurdity. We even deny that we're denying anything at all because admitting it would tear the thin fabric holding everything together. Zapffe believed denial wasn't weakness. It was necessity. In his words, humanity is a failed evolutionary experiment. We became too aware to be at peace, but too alive to stop existing. That's why denial is institutional. That's why terminal patients are often shielded from the full truth. Not to protect them, but to protect everyone else from watching what happens when awareness becomes too sharp. One person seeing too clearly threatens the entire illusion. So we soften language. We rename tragedy. We call loss a lesson. We call suffering growth. We call randomness destiny. All to avoid saying what's actually there. The abyss never left. We just learned how not to look at it. And those who do look, without filters, without sedation, risk understanding too much. And understanding, as Zapffe warned, is pain. You don't know the name of the child who died of hunger yesterday, and part of you prefers it that way, because knowing would demand feeling. And feeling fully would break the machinery that keeps you functional. The world burns quietly, while your routine stays intact. Same coffee, Same road, same jokes, same excuses not to think too deeply. Zapffe called this existential isolation. Isolation is the second mechanism. It's not ignorance, it's selective blindness. Disturbing realities are locked away in mental compartments, labeled, sealed, and never opened. Not because you chose to, but because your mind learned it had to. If consciousness opened completely to all suffering at once, every war, every injustice, every pointless death, it would paralyze you. So the mind filters, mutes, cuts, like software running silently in the background. Society rewards this, calls it stability, focus, emotional strength. But what does stability mean in a collapsing world? Children buried under rubble, elderly people dying unnoticed, animals processed alive. All happening now, yet distant enough to survive ignoring. Isolation isn't personal, it's cultural. You'll hear about celebrity drama instantly, but entire wars vanish from awareness. Not because the information isn't there, because touching reality too directly feels like touching exposed wire. Zapffe wrote that excess lucidity paralyzes, so humanity builds glass domes for the mind, made of distraction, productivity, entertainment, comfort. You feel safe inside them. But safety and blindness are not the same. At some point you must choose protection or awareness. The third mechanism is anchoring. You believe in things you never chose, a nation you didn't design, a faith you inherited by geography, values absorbed before you were old enough to question them. You call them convictions, but they function as anchors. Anchors don't reveal truth. They stop you from drowning. Anchoring gives meaning to what has none. It turns chaos into story. Humans cannot tolerate the void. Knowing the universe is indifferent, that there's no manual, no cosmic justice, no promised reward, creates unbearable vertigo. So we cling to family, to identity, to legacy, to God, to progress, not because they're true, but because without them, everything feels terrifyingly random. The problem is that anchors become cages. People sacrifice their lives for causes they never examined. Parents pass on wounds disguised as values. Love turns into possession. Faith turns into violence. Zapffe wasn't attacking belief. He was asking where it comes from and who benefits from your obedience. Anchoring ends the search where it should begin. The truth is free, but humans prefer beautiful prisons. The fourth mechanism is sublimation. When suffering can't be denied, isolated, or anchored, we transform it. We turn pain into art, fear into philosophy, death into poetry. Suffering doesn't disappear. It becomes impressive. Zapffe believed art exists not to heal, but to delay collapse. Pain rearranged into something bearable, something shareable. The poet writes about loss instead of screaming. The musician sings hope while drowning. The world applauds after they're gone. Van Gogh, Sylvia Plath, Cobain. They didn't survive their insight, they translated it. Sublimation is the most intelligent defense. It looks directly at the absurd, but coats it in metaphor. It doesn't erase chaos. It frames it in gold. Modern science even confirms this. The brain is wired to find patterns whether they exist or not, meaning prevents paralysis. Stories keep us moving. But what if beauty is just despair wearing makeup? Sublimation keeps you functional, but trapped. Even when pain becomes art, it remains pain. Grief strips all defenses away. In front of a coffin, there are no lessons, no affirmations, no everything happens for a reason, only silence. Zapffe called this consciousness without escape. Life became aware of itself and collapsed under that weight. Everything we build exists to distract us from this moment. And when distraction fails, truth remains. There is no guaranteed meaning. The universe owes you nothing. You weren't chosen, you weren't tested, you weren't prepared for anything. You were born because two bodies met. Pain is not a lesson. Death is not a doorway. Those are stories we tell so awareness doesn't destroy us. Zapffe's conclusion shocked many. He believed the only ethical response to consciousness was compassion, to prevent another being from inheriting the same burden. Not hatred of life, but respect for its weight. Call it pessimism if you want. Pessimism doesn't wish for suffering, it admits it exists. Consciousness, Zapffe wrote, is the open wound of the cosmos. So the question remains, is life worth living once you see this? There is no universal answer. Some will return to illusion, some will keep creating, some will simply breathe, aware, unprotected. If you've stayed this long, you did something rare. You didn't scroll away, you didn't numb out, you allowed yourself to feel unsettled. Most people never do, and that alone means something. Not as purpose, but as clarity. Society runs on anesthesia. Entire industries sell comfort, control, meaning, healing. But all of it circles the same fear, the terror of indifference. Not evil, not punishment, indifference. Zapffe's honesty wasn't despair, it was exposure. Awakening isn't peace, it's seeing without filters. Most retreat when the masks fall, but a few remain. They stop asking what life means, and start asking why they need it to mean anything at all. And in that silence, something unexpected happens. Not happiness, not hope, but acceptance. And that may be the closest thing to freedom consciousness allows.